Noah here with American Muscle. This is the Eibach Pro Damper Shock and Strut Kit for the 2011 to 2019 3.6 liter rear-wheel drive Charger and the 2011 to 2019 rear-wheel drive Charger RT. Now, if your ride quality is getting worse and you're looking to install some lowering springs but want to stiffen the ride and reduce body roll, then this kit will work fantastic for you. This kit is really designed to go hand in hand with Eibach's lowering springs for a complete ride transformation. You can just install these guys on a car with stock springs, but where these will really come into their own element is with the goal to lower your Charger. Now, a lot of times just throwing on some lowering springs when you've got stock shocks and struts can leave you with some clunkiness and an overall kind of boaty feel. But this kit is designed to replace those stock ones and give the car some more braking and turning stability when you really throw the car around. Now, these are going to be a sort of tuned shock where they're designed to optimize suspension performance at a lower center of gravity without sacrificing ride comfort for the daily drive. So as far as construction goes, these guys really don't stray too far away from the stock strut and shock design. We do have all metal bodies and everything is coated in a black powder coat to ward off any rust or corrosion. Now on the struts, the spring perches work the same way as the stock ones as well, and the springs will slide right over like normal, with the way the fluid can move inside when the piston of the shock compresses into the housing. So these guys are designed to drop right in where the old ones came out with no other modifications, and they even come with a 2-year warranty. This kit from Eibach costs around $750, and that includes the front struts and the rear shocks. Now, these aren't what I would necessarily call an affordable option, but Eibach's name is on them, which means they're quality suspension components. And if you're doing lowering springs and you want a proper ride, these would absolutely be a great investment to make, and the difference is going to be worth the cost. Moving on to installation, this is going to be an install difficulty of around 3 out of 3 wrenches and about 2 hours for the install time. Now, anything involving springs and spring compressors isn't usually time consuming when you have the right tools, but it can be scary and potentially dangerous. There's a lot of pressure behind those suckers when they're compressed, so if you're not comfortable using a spring compressor, there's no shame in leaving it to a professional. This job is totally doable yourself if you use a spring compressor, and I believe in you, especially because we're going to head to the install bay and show you the process step by step.
The tools you'll need for this project are a 1/2-inch impact or a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, a 3/8 drive ratchet, a 13, a 15, a 16, an 18, and a 21 millimeter socket, a swivel extension, a 1/4-inch drive ratchet, an 8 millimeter socket, an 8 millimeter wrench, along with an 18 and a 19 millimeter wrench, a 7/8 wrench, and a ball peen hammer. Hi everyone. Today we're installing a set of struts and rear shocks on our Charger, but first let's watch a short video on how to uninstall the front struts, and we'll see you right back here to show you how to uninstall the rear shocks. First thing we're going to do is loosen this upper control arm nut first, not fully remove it, just loosen it so that we can break it loose. And we're going to be using our 18 millimeter socket and our impact gun. Now that we've got it loose, what we'll do is we'll hit this with a hammer just to break the control arm free from the steering knuckle. Now just be careful not to hit this rubber boot because you don't want to damage it and cause any grease leaks. Now we'll remove our sway bar link nut here using our 21 millimeter socket. Now you may run into a situation like what we have here, where you try to take off that sway bar link nut and the whole thing just spins. If that happens, you can just use a 21 millimeter or a 13/16 millimeter wrench and a 10 millimeter socket and separate the two that way. Now we'll remove our lower strut mount bolt using our 18 millimeter socket. Now we'll remove the upper strut cover cap and 2 of the 13 millimeter nuts, and we'll loosen the 3rd one. Now we can go ahead and remove our upper ball joint nut and then our last remaining strut bolt at the top. Now you can let this hang a little bit, but not too much because of the brake hoses up here. And then we remove that upper nut. Now I like to put this back on just to keep it from flopping around and causing any damage while we're taking care of the rest of it. Now you want to repeat this process for the other side. Now that we're ready to remove our rear shock, what we're going to do first is remove the two 16mm bolts at the top, and then we'll move down to the lower and remove the lower shock mount. So to remove the uppers, we're going to be using our impact gun and a 16mm socket. So let's go ahead and get those out. So we're going to use our 16mm socket, and you might find it easier if you've got a swivel joint on it as well. Get those out. Now we'll remove our lower shock mount using our 15mm socket and an 18mm wrench. Now to get the shock out, what you're going to want to do is grab the bottom of the shock and push it up and compress the shock so that it'll clear the lower control arm. And we just push it up until it clears. Once you've got it compressed, just lift it up and out of the way. Now before we can install our new strut, you will need to make sure that you have access to a spring compressor, because we will have to transfer over the spring, the isolators, the boot, and the top cap on our strut. So you will need a spring compressor to be able to do that. Also, the other thing, you'll notice on our stock strut here, we have the nut for the lower strut mount welded onto the bracket. The new one does not have that, but they do supply a new nut to go on the bolt. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that before you get started. Now let's go ahead and get our spring and everything taken off our old one and installed on the new one. Now to remove our old strut, we are going to need an 18mm socket and also an 8mm socket to hold the shaft still while we're unloosening the nut. Once we get these done, it's very helpful if you've got one of these specialty tools to help take off the nut. If you don't have one, you can just use a regular 8mm wrench and an 18mm socket. So we'll put our socket on and then go ahead and loosen up our nut. Now you just need to make sure that you take your lower isolator as well as this plastic cap that goes over it to install on the new strut. Now you may or may not need to use this plastic cap that come off as well. Ours, we've already test fit and it does not need it. But you do want to make sure that you put your lower isolator on. Make sure it sits on flat on the retainer here. You also want to make sure that the tab for your sway bar link is properly situated. In our case, we want it facing straight out. And you just go ahead, insert it back into your cap. Make sure that the end of the coil spring lines up on the stop on the isolator. Install the new washer. Install the new nut. Now we can go ahead and tighten everything down. Now when you install your new strut, you may have to use some different tools in order to get it to a point where everything is tightened down. Now we were using our pass-through ratchet earlier, but you may end up having to use a regular wrench in order to get that nut to be able to tighten down. And you're also going to need a 19mm wrench or a 19mm pass-through socket. You're also going to need an 8mm wrench to hold the shaft still while you're tightening down the nut. Now it will take some work to be able to get it done because there's not a lot of room in there to make everything work together. So you may have to go back and forth between which tools to use in order to get this tightened down. So if you're not real experienced with this, I highly recommend you take it to a shop to get this done. But we've got ours started here, so let's go ahead and finish tightening it up. Now once you've got your nut on top tightened down, double check your alignment, make sure that your sway bar link tab is in the correct position, and make sure that your isolator is seated properly inside your spring. Now we'll go ahead and take this off of the spring compressor and get it installed on our vehicle. Now we're ready to go ahead and install our strut, and we're just going to insert the top 3 studs back through the original holes and loosely attach them using one of the nuts. Now we can go ahead and reattach our steering knuckle to our upper control arm using the original hardware. Now we go ahead and insert our lower strut mount bolt through the strut and the lower control arm. Put our new nut on. And now we'll go ahead and attach our sway bar link. We'll insert our sway bar link here, get our nut started. And now we'll go ahead and tighten everything down. Now we'll tighten down our lower strut mount bolt using our 18mm socket and a 7/8 inch wrench for the nut. Now we'll tighten down our sway bar link with our 21mm socket. Now we'll tighten down the nut on our upper ball joint using our 18mm wrench. Now we'll go ahead and attach the other 2 nuts to the top of our strut and tighten those down. Now we'll tighten them down with our 13mm socket. Now we can replace our cap. Now that we've got this side done, you can go ahead and repeat that whole process for the other side, making sure, of course, when you're finished, torque everything down to manufacturer's recommended specifications. And as always, anytime you do any kind of suspension work, make sure you take it in and get an alignment done. Now before we can install our rear shock, we do need to transfer over the upper mounting plate from our old shock to the new one. So you're going to need a 6mm wrench to hold the shaft still while you use the 15mm wrench to undo the nut on the top of the shock. So we'll go ahead and put our 15mm wrench on the nut, our 6mm on the shaft, and then loosen them up. So we'll go ahead and loosen up our nut here while holding the shaft still with our 6mm wrench. Then you remove your washer and then slide the mounting plate off the top. Now to install our mounting plate on the top of our new shock, we are going to be reusing the top washer from the old shock. And we're going to put that on the bottom of the shaft here. Then we'll slide our mounting plate on. Then we'll use the new washer and then the new nut. So we'll go ahead and put that on, and then we'll tighten it down, again using our 6mm and our 18mm wrenches. Now, once we've got it tightened down, we can go ahead and get this mounted back on the vehicle. Now, to install this, we're going to do just like we did on the uninstall of the original shock. We're going to compress the shock, and then we'll have to move pretty quickly to get it installed in the lower shock mounting location, as well as the upper shock mounting location. So we'll go ahead and compress our shock, and then move quickly to get it into place. Now, once you've got it into place, we'll go ahead and install our lower shock mount, and then we'll work on the top. Now, we'll go ahead and install our lower shock mount bolt and the nut. Now, reusing the original hardware, we'll go ahead and get our bolt started at the top. And then using our 16mm socket, we'll go ahead and tighten these up. Now, you want to make sure that you do this evenly so that everything goes up correctly. Now we'll tighten up our lower shock mount bolt with our 15mm socket and our 18mm wrench. And now you can repeat that whole process for the other side. And that wraps up our review and install of the Eibach Pro Damper Shock and Strut Kit for your 11 to 19 3.6 liter rear wheel drive Charger and your 11 to 19 rear wheel drive Charger RT. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Charger, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.